Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is the National Girls Collaborative National Webinar, Girls Steam Ahead with NASA Free Resources. We're really glad to see you here with us today. We have some great content and resources to share with you. Thank you to those who responded to the poll there on your screen. I'm actually going to end polling as we get started. And as I mentioned before, we have a great cross-section of folks today attending this webinar, from museums to community programs to educators to community members and students and university staff and librarians. So thank you so much for joining us today. We're really glad to see you. As you continue to enter into the room, feel free to keep introducing yourself in the chat. Let us know where you're joining from. And just so you know, this webinar is being recorded. We will post the recording on the event page once it is ready to go. Everyone in this webinar right now is muted, and you're going to be muted with cameras off for the entirety of the webinar. So please use that chat, ask questions, share resources, chat with each other. We're happy to have the conversations in there. And the chat will be pulling questions from that chat for our speakers to respond to later in the webinar. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started. And we'll start by sharing a little bit of information about the National Girls Collaborative Project. The vision of the National Girls Collaborative Project is to bring together organizations committed to encouraging girls to pursue careers in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and computer science. We facilitate discussion among stakeholders by offering structured networking activities at every NGCP and local collaborative event. During collaboration networking, dynamic discussions between individuals matching needs and resources can highlight ways for organizations to work together and impact the youth they are serving. We all know that there is a diversity of high-quality resources available, and many of you have little time to search for the strategies and content to improve your programs. NGCP helps address this need via our website, newsletter, online databases, social media, and webinars like this one. This webinar is particularly specific to our mission of engaging girls in STEM. We also seek to strengthen the capacity of programs by sharing exemplary practices and research models. And we leverage the work of a network, like our collaboration networking, to achieve gender equity in STEM. The National Girls Collaborative Project engages in a number of activities virtually, nationally, and locally through state-based collaborative leadership teams. NGCP partners with organizations to scale and deliver content such as the Leap into Science National Network in partnership with the Franklin Institute and Crypto Club in partnership with the University of Chicago, both funded by the National Science Foundation, serving hundreds of educators via statewide networks. NGCP also manages the Connectory, the largest national database of STEM opportunities. The Connectory provides a way for program providers to connect and collaborate with each other. FabFems is an international database of female role models from many STEM fields. They are passionate about the work they do and ready to connect with programs to spark girls' interests. NGCP is also working with Lyda Hill Philanthropies and has launched the If Then Collection, a digital library housing photos, videos, and other media of women in STEM fields. Locally, state collaborative leadership teams offer convenings for educators and researchers for professional development, as well as mini grants for innovative projects when funding is available, and also distribute their own regular newsletters spotlighting local resources. The National Girls Collaborative Project has been partially funded by the National Science Foundation since 2002. We began as the Northwest Girls Collaborative Project, focused on Washington State and Oregon, and then as we presented our collaboration model to others, we were invited to expand across the United States. While NGCP programs and partners are located in every state, we have 33 collaboratives serving 41 states, facilitating collaboration between 42,500 organizations who collectively serve 20.2 million girls and 10 million boys. And that was just a little bit of information about the National Girls Collaborative Project. We are thrilled to offer this webinar for you all today, and I'm going to quickly introduce our speaker today, Dr. Quinn Hart. Dr. Quinn Hart is a senior education and outreach scientist at the Space Telescope Science Institute. She works on several projects for NASA's Universe of Learning, including Girls Steam Ahead with NASA, View Space, and Science Briefings. She also supports public outreach efforts for the Hubble Space Telescope, the upcoming James Webb Space Telescope, and the future Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope. And I'm going to turn it over to Quinn and let her take it away.
Thank you, Marissa. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for our webinar here to describe to you about what the Girls Steam Ahead with NASA project is under NASA's Universe of Learning. Again, my name is Dr. Quinn Hart. I'm an astronomer and outreach scientist at the Space Telescope Science Institute. My colleague, Carolyn Slavinsky, is also here. She is monitoring the chat and dropping in links and will help us field questions today. So what is NASA's Universe of Learning? Well, we're an astrophysics STEM informal learning program that's funded by the NASA Science Mission Directorate. And our goal is to ensure that learners of all ages and backgrounds are engaged and immersed in exploring the universe for themselves. So where people come in to learn about astrophysics, there's some resource that we have that allows you to host an event to really engage them in different ways. And how do we do that? Well, we provide a direct connection to the science through the different NASA missions. We have a direct connection to the scientist doing the groundbreaking work. And the information from the observatories helps the astronomers to answer very large, overarching questions that you all might have and your audience has. Like, how does the universe work? Are we alone? How do we get here? So to learn about that process of science and how the information from our space telescopes and NASA missions helps to really answer those and all the groundbreaking work that is done as a result. So what does the Girls Steam Ahead with NASA project do? Well, we empower you, the public libraries and community-based organizations to really engage girls and their families with all of this content. With these events and using these resources, the goal is to increase awareness of how we know about what we know about the universe and to really foster their STEM identity and to see themselves as the future scientists or engineers or educators to pursue those careers in the future. And so how do we do this? As a project, we provide you accessible exhibits, community programs, hands-on resources that feature all of this NASA astrophysics content and a way for you to also interact with the subject matter experts who can help interact with your audience at your events, whether that be an in-person event or a virtual event. Now, all of these, our Girls Steam Ahead with NASA event, what are we trying to do? We're trying to increase the good. The research here reports that a lot of out-of-school activities really is a positive association with how the youth see themselves in science and how they see their abilities in the subject area. The girls who participate in these clubs or out-of-school activities here are more likely to pursue these STEM subjects later on in their education. So thinking about all the age ranges across the board, thinking about getting them engaged at a young age, keeping them engaged through middle school, really providing more in-depth opportunities when they're in high school. So by the end of high school, they're still thinking about a STEM career in the area of astrophysics as they enter college. Having that kind of pathway throughout the different levels of education here in informal settings allows the possibility to be higher as they get older. And it's so important for families to be involved here. It makes such a difference. So all our activities are really inclusive in the sense of parents, come and do this as well with your children here. It enriches the activity in the moment and also when they go home and still explore astrophysics from home. So again, what are our priorities with these Girls Steam Ahead with NASA events? Increase scientific literacy. What is going on? What is a black hole? What is a neutron star? What is a nebula? Learn about what those objects might be. reach underserved and underrepresented communities, being able to get the content and share that with people where they are. Reinforce this idea of the scientific process. How do astronomers learn about other planets around other stars? What are the tools that we need, and what kind of information? What are those limitations? So trying to really reinforce that idea of what goes into understanding the universe is just equally as important as understanding the universe here. Really try to, another goal is to develop that scientific identity, being able to see themselves as the future scientists, engineers, and STEM professionals of the future. And while we're doing all of this, we're trying to employ the most emerging technologies to really support your work as you engage your audiences where they are. And again, a really key part of our activities is the inclusion of subject matter experts. They are embedded in everything we do. If it is a resource where there's science content, we have a subject matter expert helping us to make sure that that's accurate. If there is an educator who knows the best way to present the information, that person is included. So from the development to the implementation, subject matter expert is there. And again, we can connect you with a subject matter expert who can be part of your event, either as a virtual speaker or help you to work through an activity, talk about the career paths. It's really up to you how you think a subject matter expert might be used in your event. So we can work with you and connect you with a subject matter expert. And again, because astronomy and science is always changing, they really allow us to put the latest scientific results within our products themselves. So you're getting some of the most cutting edge, up-to-date information by using NASA's Universal Learning Resources. Now, in the last year, a lot of things have changed, and our mode of doing outreach events has changed. So we had to go to, many of you had to really pivot towards online and virtual events like we did here. And some of you are still in that situation and might be thinking about going to a more hybrid or even having more in-person activities. So we have so many resources, so I'm going to go through just a kind of high-level list of some of these, and we've placed them into event categories to make it a little bit easier to sift through, and then I'll do a little bit more deeper dive into some of the certain select resources. So what are the resources we have for online and virtual events? So we have a lot of web-based STEM activities that you can use in a Zoom meeting, let's say with a small group of audience here. For example, Recoloring the Universe, which talks about how you can use binary code to think about how images are colorized. How does that information come down? What is binary code? So very simple activity here that you can do virtually or in person. How do we take images? So these are web-based tools. You need a Wi-Fi connection, an internet connection with your audience for them to access some of this, which lends itself to virtual activities. We also have multimedia activities. For example, we have an Exoplanet Travel Bureau resource here where you can go in and see these really nice stylized, imagine going to a new exoplanet, what would that travel brochure look like? And then you can enter and then imagine what it would be like if you stood on the surface of that exoplanet and kind of look around. This is on a computer screen here. Or you can explore the different exoplanets that have been discovered to date in Eyes on Exoplanets, and you can go up close to the star planet system. You can see their orbits. You can start to learn about the habitable zone. So it's very visual and allows you to explore around. So it's a great self-paced type of activity if you want an exploration that is self-paced for your audience. We also have, I'll go through this a little bit more, but we have a product called ViewSpace, and within that are these interactive sliders, which are quite engaging, and I'll demonstrate that in a little bit. There are a lot of different videos as well that you can use as a starting point for your event. So within ViewSpace, we have short segmented videos anywhere from 1 minute to 4 minutes on a variety of topics. You can go through the video library and filter and search according to what you'd like to focus on, what topic you would like to focus on. There's some great scientific visualizations that are coming out of NASA's Universal Learning. For example, one of our newest ones, if you wanted to explore what it'd be like to go through the universe and look back in time, what kind of galaxies you would see. So to be able to visualize that without going into a virtual reality environment, you can use the science visualizations for that. We have some Universe Unplugged that's very accessible to different audiences to understand about when stars go boom, or the habitable zone around exoplanets. Or you might want to hear from a scientist about how galaxies are active. What does active mean for a galaxy? So there's a series called Ask Astronomers Live, and you can use that also as a starting point or ending point or something to take home for your audience after your event. Now, for your audience who prefer to sit down and read, we definitely have lots of reading material here as well. So the Women in STEM series, information about different women in high energy universe, or how 3D printing, a tactile resource, and how that can allow you to feel what it's like to hold a dead star in your hand. So these are different pieces that allow you to engage with your audience in different ways in a virtual or online setting. Now, what if you do have some resource, if you're having an in-person or small group, socially distant kind of event? What kind of activities do we have in our collection of materials here? So we have hands-on STEM activities. So you can imagine you can make kits and then separate them out at stations and have your group come in a way that you can clean up and then bring in another group of kids to make it really safe for everybody. You can think about making a paper circuit. There's a great resource here that allows you to figure out how to do that. It uses a LED bulb and a button battery. 3D printing here, if you have access to that machine, you can print up these tactile resources and talk about the shape that you might see. We have activity guides that allow you to explore what it means when the universe is expanding, or thinking about just light and color, like what does that mean? What is light? What is color? And how do astronomers use that? Or even coding activities like binary nameplates here. What is 0 is 0 and a 1, and how do you encode information that way? One of our newer activities here, we have an exoplanet trading card activity that has a guide for ideas on how to use this in your events and for different age groups. Perhaps there's a scale model of an exoplanet that you would like to share, like TRAPPIST-1, and compare it to our solar system and ask the audience, do you think that other planets around other stars are just as big as our solar system, and get a poll, like do they think it's bigger, do they think it's smaller, and then they can explore this using this activity. Now, some of you also have extremely large scale events where it might be a festival and you have hundreds of people coming in, or you have a presentation that 50 to 100 people are watching in real time. So what kind of things might we have that really lends itself to this kind of audience? Well, we have exhibits, several exhibits here. For example, Light Beyond the Bulb, Here, There, Everywhere. What you see on the screen here are just snippets of some of the images. The nice thing here is that you can actually download some of these images yourself and create your own exhibit, and then once you have it printed, you have it there at your venue and you can reuse them. Some of these are also available in Spanish, Portuguese, and German. And there's one or two that we actually can loan out. So if you are interested in getting a loaner exhibit, please reach out to us, and I think Carolyn would be the one you would be interfacing with that. Then we have a set of resources, posters. For example, we have this beautiful stylized Women in STEM series where you can see just a few here. Some of them are available in Spanish. Some of them are converted to coloring sheets for our younger audience here. We have a nice Women in Color poster with the information about the women on the back of this poster. And also exoplanets. What would it be like to travel to an exoplanet? Could you imagine what that would look like, and kind of really pull people in, like, what is this travel bureau poster and this two suns in the sky, what does that mean? So there's definitely a great way to engage people here with these posters. And again, these are printable, and if you create them, they can be printed and reused, maybe every year on Women's History Month, for example, or in a room where you have these small activities. Now, we have lots of different, like, smaller engagement pieces. I had already talked about the science visualizations, but we also have resources for tactile astronomy for those who are visually impaired and maybe to feel what the universe looks like, and that's great for all audiences as well. There's an AR app called Reach Across the Stars to really highlight different female figures in astrophysics. And we also have a resource called A Universe of Sound, where information from images have been encoded with sound so that you can, quote unquote, hear the different images at different kinds of light. And if we have a chance, I'll demonstrate that for you as well. All right, so at this point, I will be demonstrating some of these select resources. So I'll be going through ViewSpace, AstroPix, some observing with NASA Micro Observatory, binary stars, and some resource guides here. So let me go ahead. I believe I need to, okay. I see the screen here. I'm going to share my screen. All right, let me turn that down. Expand. And just so you know, Marissa, I can't see you anymore, so I'm assuming that it's all good on your end.
Looks great.
Great, okay. So up here is our main website. So the main Universe of Learning website is right here, www.universe-of-learning.org/GSON. A lot of our resources are connected here. So for example, if you scroll down to available resources, you can see here are the links to the exhibits if you want to explore them. Here are the links to the posters. Here are some of our STEM activities. It's not comprehensive, but this is a great starting point. And we have other resources here. So what I'd like to start with is talking about ViewSpace. So the website for ViewSpace is viewspace.org. This is the main page here. And you can get a sense of what these interactives look like. So here's an interactive example on the front page where we're looking at the Whirlpool galaxy. And you can see what it looks like in the visible light, and it changes into an X-ray image of the same object and what it looks like in multi-wavelength. So you can explore a lot of these. This is the engagement piece for your audience. So if you go to interactives, there's a little description here of how you can use the interactives. These have been developed for the computer, but it also works on really small phones. We really developed this so that it's accessible across all different devices here. Now, when you scroll down to more, you'll see that these interactives are put into different categories. So I'm going to look at star death here. So when you go to star death, you can actually access all of them in this menu here under star death. So star death, and you can see a Crab Nebula. So right now I'm looking at the Crab Nebula, and it starts off with invisible light. It happens to be coded in green right now. And every interactive has a stop along the bar. Sometimes it stops at the beginning, sometimes it starts in the middle or the end. There's a small caption here that explains what's going on or what you're looking at. And there's a place where you can toggle the labels on and off. So for your audience, you might decide, I don't want to put the labels on because you want to guide them somehow. Okay, so we have some examples of how to use VSpace in an event, and I'll get to that in a little bit with our program cookbooks. But I'm going to leave the labels on here. So now as we toggle, you can say, well, what does it look like? How does the view of the Crab Nebula look different or the same, perhaps, if I move to the infrared? So as you move to the infrared here, you can see it looks a little bit different, but what am I seeing now? Am I seeing light from the same things? The caption here will tell you. If I move to the radio, how does that look different? And what am I seeing here? So those labels really inform and support what you're reading down here. Now, if we go all the way to the multi-wavelength here, it's a composite, one on top of the other, of the different images in different light. And all of that combined, this is what astronomers love to do, is to really study an object at all different kinds of light, because it tells us many different processes that are going on in this object. Now, this is a small snapshot. If you scroll down some more, there's more information, some quick facts, as well as places within NASA's Universe of Learning that's related to that content. So these are a lot of at-home activities. Take it home and learn some more suggestions that you can provide for your audience here. Now in the video library, so I'm going to go to video here, and you can go to our video library. And in the video library, you can search for topics that are just related to other solar systems, other Earths here. And you can see we have a whole collection that you can play from within this ViewSpace environment. And those of you who work at museums might be already familiar with the kind of the streaming video series. Anybody can get an account on this on ViewSpace. It's free, and you can also stream that. So I know that's it's a great thing to have going on. Let's say if you're in a lobby of a museum or the lobby of your library, you might just have this kind of playing on repeat the whole time to really engage people as they walk by. Okay. The next piece I want to talk about is something called AstroPix. So the main website here is AstroPix. astropix.ipac.caltech.edu. So this is a database of images that you can search. So if you hit on browse here, you can browse by image type, you can browse by subject type, you can browse by telescope, you can browse by the kind of light here. So for example, let me just go put in the search bar here that I want to look at anything related to the Orion Nebula. So I can put that in the search bar, hit search, and what you'll see is in the database, anything that has a tag of the Orion Nebula will come in. This includes real images as well as illustrations. Like for example, this image here that's an illustration. But let me just click on one of these images. So I click on this image. What you'll see is you'll see a bigger view of the image. Then you'll see download options to get different resolution. Maybe you really want it for your background. As you scroll down here, you can also zoom. I forgot about that. So you can zoom in on the image and explore it. This is a place where you can probably spend all day exploring all these beautiful images. Now when you scroll down here, there's more information about the particular object, as well as who provided the image and some the image source. But what might be interesting for your event is to talk about with your audience maybe how far away is this from us. Okay, it's about 1,500 light years away from the Earth here, the Sun-Earth system. If they're interested for some reason to point at it with their telescope, you can get the coordinates here. But one of the things that we like to point out is that this is a very colorful image. So what do the colors mean? Is this a visible light image? Or is this an infrared image? Does it have X-ray light in it? And if you go down to the bottom right-hand side, the color mapping is keyed here, so you know. So what I see here is Hubble, 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 Hubble. So most of this is all in the optical, and you can see that certain colors of light in the optical are coded red or orange or green. So we have a nice activity that's a scavenger, an AstroPix scavenger hunt that guides your audience through trying to navigate this and learn astrophysics along the way. So this is more with imaging. So you can do so many different things here. For advanced search, you might say, I want to look for a telescope facility that has the name Galax in it. So this was a UV telescope. So if I hit enter, I'll bring up all the images that have a UV image from the Galax telescope. So for example, this Helix Nebula here has some UV images in it. And so you can explore again up close in this little spyglass here, and it has the similar places for information, more information here on the left-hand side, color mapping. So this image is actually multi-wavelength, and I know by going to the color map, and it says Galax here, which is in the ultraviolet, but there's also infrared images. So you can explore like why does it look different in the infrared versus the ultraviolet? Can I find the images separated out? And you can talk about that. Maybe include a subject matter expert who can come in and just talk about ultraviolet light and the challenges of observing that from space. Great. So another activity we have is image processing. How do astronomers get to this pretty picture that you see here? It doesn't come down from the telescope in this really nice final processed piece. And so it is a part of a process of science on how you get from the raw information to the beautiful images that you see. And so your audience could go through a very simple version of this process and even take images with a robotic telescope. So this is the Micro Observatory Observing with NASA program, and I think Carolyn might drop this link in there. But this is where you can control your own telescope using the Microobservatory Robotic Telescope Network. You could, you click here on Control Telescope, and you could select your target. There's a whole bunch of different options here. They gray out if they're not visible in the nighttime sky for that time of the year. But for example, if I wanted to observe the Helix Nebula here, I could hit Observe. And then as a user, you're asked to select, well, how long do I want to look at for? 0.1 seconds, 1 second, 30 seconds, and what kind of filter do I want to use? And this is a great example of what is a filter? Why do you want to use it? What do the NASA telescopes have filters? Yes, they have filters, very, very complex, very detailed ones, but there's a reason why we need the filters, and so you can talk about that. And if you're not sure about what that content is, we have the resources to give you that background information. But once they select all of this, there's a place where when I hit continue, I'll just do a sample here. I'll just say 1 second in all the filters, and I hit continue. Oops, I forgot field of view here, which is there was only one option. Hit continue, and then this is a place where you can enter your email so that you can get the image the next day. And then once you have your image the next day, now you can start exploring that image and trying to stylize it in a way that you really like. So there's a tab here called Analyze Images. So right now I don't have an image, and if you might not have an image, but that's okay because you can use some of the archived and preloaded images on this. So this is using a program called JS9-4L. It's a very simple version of an imaging tool that astronomers use called DS9 that the astronomers use, but this is for learners. 4L is for the learners. Now, when you first enter this, there's little tooltips to help you guide your way through how to use this. So for example, I'll hit next here. It tells me what's happening. I can adjust the scale and what does that mean. I can hit next, and it kind of runs me through different things. But if you've already gone through this once, you can just exit out. So what I'm going to do here, I think it's already loaded, but I'll go through it again. I can load an archived image here, and I'm going to go through it and load up this Lagoon Nebula. Okay, so it's already loaded, and I know that because it says it's displayed right here. And you might say, well, that's not like an image that I thought I would see. So you might say, okay, what do I need to play around with? Maybe it's the scale, okay? And then we have these toggle buttons. And so this is where your audience can really explore what happens if I toggle these around. Maybe that's too high. Maybe I need to, oh, now I'm starting to see something. Okay, well, this is interesting. Now I'm starting to see some interesting contrast. Let me make sure I'm still in linear here. I'm doing this in real time, and so the settings might not be there here. Okay, let me go do this. So just like I'm doing, your audience would be trying to say, oh, I start to see something that looks astronomy-like, right? And but the image is black and white here. So you might ask, well, what if I want to make it a different color? And they might say, oh, I see this color bar. Well, let me make it watermelon color. You might see something like this, and they might not be happy with that, and want to really go with this magma. I actually really like this color palette. I used it a lot when I used a lot of X-ray observations here. Now, they can play with this, and you can have goals for them in terms of how they do this. They can bring in different filtered images and then layer them as well. And when they're done, they can go to image, and they could save it as a JPEG. And it saves it onto their computer, and then they could share it out. Or maybe you have a little montage on your wall to show all of your audience members' participation in this particular activity. Now, one of NASA's Universal Learning projects is called the Astrophoto Challenge, and so we have a summer 2021 Astrophoto Challenge where you can observe with NASA with the microobservatory and use this tool to be able to do some image processing on one of our targets. You can also do the same thing with NASA images from NASA telescopes. The Astrophoto Challenge will open up this summer, and we highlight standout entries on our website of the different versions of images that audience members participate in. And you'll see they're all different. And so Anybody can do this. It's really fun and a way to really get a sense of how image processing happens from the astronomer's standpoint. Okay, let's see. Now here is more about the nuts and bolts of the data. How do we get the data from the telescope? How do we talk to a spacecraft? And so when you go through how to talk to a spacecraft, and this link is in the PowerPoint that you'll be seeing here. You can talk about the stream of ones and zeros, how it comes down from the telescope, and how this information encoded in these streams of ones and zeros. For example, how do you encode letters using that? So you can really walk your audience through this idea of talking to machines. And one of the great things you can do here is, what if you have 15 minutes to work with your group? Well, maybe you can do some binary pins or binary bracelets and have them do their initials, and they can walk away with something. So they're making this creative piece is really important. I found that in the past when they get to create something and walk away with it, it's very memorable to them. And so this is just a guide of how to do that with a pin, for example. Once they're a little bit more comfortable with talking about binary as a language, they can now start to do pen and paper activities that really take the binary code to the next level, and think about how an image is created from binary code and how you can encode numbers with binary code to talk about the level of light that's in the 2D matrix here. So there's this decoding starlight activity. So for example, if you have a middle school group, you can look at this handout here. And it walks for you as the facilitator or your audience members. This is a handout that you give them, and this is a pen paper one. But last year we had locations really turn this into a digital activity where they use Google Sheets to take a grid and put it into basically like a spreadsheet that had the same information, and they could color code it in real time, collaboratively with a group of people. So we have all these resources here for you here. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. So let me do that. Go back to Adobe Connect and stop sharing. Thank you. All right, so that's just a demonstration of some of our select resources. And we have these webinars are archived, so a lot of activities we explain more in depth in some of the archived webinars, so you can have those as resources too. And if you still have questions, please reach out to us. I will be more than happy to help you work through it. Now, what are the things that we're really trying to do here is for your audience here, we really want you to encourage you to think about, how do I move my audience from this getting excited about astronomy, engaged, to wanting to explore more, to have a little deeper interaction with the information, and perhaps an even deeper one to think about themselves as scientists, the future scientists. So there are all these different engagement, excitement pieces. There's exploration pieces and places where they can talk about their scientific identity, being involved in the process of science, taking images, or using a telescope to look for exoplanets and look for the signatures. What does that look like? Now, I'm going to take a breath because it was a lot, right? And we had a survey last year that we sent out to facilitators trying to figure out, what do you need from us to really help you plan your Girls Steam Ahead with NASA event? And the one piece is that if you're already really familiar with astrophysics and you've held your own events, then you can try to find the activities that make sense for you, that you're comfortable with. But for those of you who are new to this, who really just want to start doing some astrophysics content in your programming, but you're just not sure where to start, we've created a program cookbook. Now, this is for you, the facilitator, to guide you through all of our resources. So we have a menu of activities and resources where we've identified what's a good engagement piece here for you to use. What about background builders? What about the exploration piece, or take them home, or extensions to make it slightly more complex for an older audience? We've done this in this program cookbook. So this is a new resource that we developed last year, went live earlier in the year. And in this program cookbook, it has recipes. So this is our menu, but you might want to follow a recipe. And so we have recipes by topic. So we have an electromagnetic spectrum recipe with sample scenarios that are framed as 60-minute events or 90-minute events with extensions, and suggestions and tool tips to make your activity more accessible to your audience or tailor it. You can also think about ways to create your own event by looking at the different items in the menu and create your own. So we've been able to really think about this in that terms of the pathway. What do you need in order to create a successful event that really highlights a particular topic? So again, the first recipe is the electromagnetic spectrum. The second recipe is data and image processing, so that how to talk to a spacecraft, the binary code, recoloring the universe, those resources are in there. We have several sample scenarios, anywhere from 2 to 4, depending on which recipe. Now, this is a new resource. We really would love your feedback on this, so look out for an email invitation to from our external evaluators to help give us feedback on if this is helpful and what kind of new content would you like, or does the menu work for you? Do you find that it's actually easier for you to plan, even if you're pretty seasoned facilitator with STEM activities? Do you find that this allows you to navigate the Universal Learning website a little bit easier with our resources? So just be on the lookout for that. That's coming up soon. Now, taking this all together in your event, what are the things that we are really trying to press on you? Thinking about the best practices and strategies here. The best thing for your audience is to make sure that it's a really low pressure environment, that you're learning something new, you're having fun, let them try things out, let them mess up, no judgment. So really that low pressure. Make it student-centered. Ask them questions. Ask them to give you some predictions and let them figure out that from themselves. So really try to guide them in that way. And we've developed our event scenarios in that way with lots of questionings. Ask them what they think they know and bring them and kind of come back and kind of close the activity with what they did learn and how it changed or was similar to what they knew beforehand. The process is really important, not the end product. So this is a kind of an emphasis for that, making your own image. If you are happy with it, then it's done, right? And so the process is more important than what it looks like in comparing to other people. You can make the event very collaborative, working together, really making it a non-competitive environment for this gender balance, thinking about visuals that are inclusive for all audiences, and really involving the parent and the family here to have them come along with the journey of learning as well. Because sometimes they like it so much they want to do it again at home or teach their siblings. I've had activities where the kids do it with me and then the parents tell me, oh yeah, they spent all evening teaching it to their siblings. It's quite fun. So when you put it into action here, you can have learners do things for themselves, talk about maybe they make their own Women in STEM poster of them as the future scientists. Maybe you have them select an activity, you offer them different options here. I can think of stations, right? Like if you have an in-person event, ask them what they know before they start an event, generate questions. There are many different things that you can do, and they can follow up with other take-home activities here to learn more. So here again, here's just some images of all of this putting into action. So here's the exhibit in the middle. Here's a connecting with a subject matter expert. Here's someone doing one of the pencil code activities. And this is a snapshot of one of the virtual events that someone did the binary bracelets with. And they actually used pipe cleaners and pony beads and had participants pick them up at the library, and then they did it all virtually. So there's different ways to do this in a virtual setting that personally I don't think these kind of events will go away, because it does capture and allow many people to be a part of your activity that might otherwise not be able to get there in person, especially if you happen to be in an area that services a really wide range of the square mileage here. Another way to get to our events is, not our events, our resources, is that we have NASA's Universe of Learning at Home, so Universe at Home, which you can filter by audience type, science topic, or the type of activity here. So that's another way to kind of go through and see what we have here. This is a collection of Universe of Learning activities that have been recently created, as well as older resources prior to NASA's Universe of Learning coming. NASA's Universe of Learning is 6 years old here, so there was resources prior to that, which we've included here as well. Now, think creatively. So you can modify any of these activities for your virtual audience, and here are just things that I thought of. Like, for example, let's say that you just don't have pony beads or string. Well, maybe at home they have construction paper. You can make beads, and instead of a bracelet, they make a necklace. Or instead of a necklace, they make a banner, and they have their name, on the wall here. Different ways to still engage them in the same content, but in different ways. Maybe you can encourage them to go outside. This is my daughter putting the TRAPPIST-1 system in our driveway. It's really hard to see, but this is about a car's length, and the TRAPPIST-1 system is actually really small here, and the whole solar system, I don't think that's the whole solar system, but you're able to compare it, and they could do it. Or you can have them go out and do chalk art and do their own exoplanet travel bureau, or make a picture of themselves and colorize it so that it's a Women in STEM poster for themselves. Or you can join our Astrophoto Challenge over the summer, which is virtual. Now you can learn more about all these activities by going to our website. Let us know if you plan on hosting an event or need support by filling out this survey. This is just to inform us if you're planning to host an event, so that it's on our radar and we can guide you if needed, connect you with a subject matter expert. Now, you might have heard there's a big thing happening in the fall of this year. It's the launch of the James Webb Space Telescope. It is an infrared telescope that will be launched around the end of October, tentatively Halloween, from French Guiana here. And it will really revolutionize our understanding of the universe, our understanding of exoplanets, galaxies, star formation. Every topic in astrophysics will be touched by the science that will be returned by the James Webb Space Telescope. So we naturally want the world to celebrate this major milestone. So if you're interested in hosting a launch engagement event at your venue, NASA can support museums and science centers in different venues, small to large. We need to know if you're interested if you want your event to be considered a official NASA event, in which case NASA can support it with other supporting materials. So if you go to this web address here that Carolyn just dropped in the chat, please submit this information by May 16th, so you could be considered. I think there's a selection process, but we need to know that you want to do something. Really think about how your event could really impact your community at large, and how you can keep that connection with the community going past launch, because the launch is happening in the fall, but the first data won't come down for another 6 months. So we're going to have some more chances to engage the public on the astrophysics enabled by the James Webb Space Telescope. So we wanted to share that information with you here. Again, May 16th. And so this is our last slide here. All of our work is supported by NASA, and we have partnerships with Caltech IPAC and the Center for Astrophysics, Harvard and Smithsonian, and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory here. And please reach out to us via email, and one of us will get back to you and try to connect you with a subject matter expert or give you guidance on the best way to host your event. Thank you.
Thanks, Quinn. And we're going to take a few minutes. Oops, I went ahead. Take a few minutes to just see if there are questions that came through in the chat. So many fantastic resources for folks to explore, and it's great to see some of them in action. So I know one question that I know Carolyn answered in the chat, but I think it's worth just voicing over, is Jessica was asking if there is a certain grade level or age range for the program cookbook. If you could speak to that a little bit.
Sure. In our program cookbook, for the different event scenarios, we do have a recommended age group that the particular scenario is best suited for. But embedded in that are suggestions for younger learners or older learners. So the idea is, how do we make this, for example, there is a bingo activity that we have for learning about objects in different kinds of light. And so that one's targeted for a younger age group, but you can imagine, how do I tweak that for an older age group? Maybe it's not bingo, maybe it's a matching game for that younger age group. So it truly is tailored for, there are ways to tailor it for any age group. And so in the program cookbook, we've tried really hard to infuse it with that information so that you can make it work for whoever you might be talking to. But there is a suggested one at the beginning, so you can see. But just delve deeper, you'll see tips for engaging different audiences.
Thank you. And as I just wait a few more minutes to see if other questions come through, I know I personally can sometimes feel a little bit, overwhelmed by the amount of fantastic resources. I get excited, but I also feel a little overwhelmed as to like how I might use those. And so it sounds like the idea for this program cookbook is to help you sort of find some paths and some ways to connect different resources together to have a cohesive event or activity. Is that accurate?
I'd say that for the facilitator who is really new to this content, maybe your background's not in science, but you're being tasked with hosting a STEM event at your venue and you just don't know where to start. So my suggestion for you as a newbie here is take one of the event scenarios and just run with it. Literally take it and just do exactly what we suggested. We even have facilitator scripts for you to use to what would I say in this event? Some of the event scenarios even have the facilitator script. So the goal for us with this particular resource is for you to get comfortable with thinking about astronomy and how you would say that, because we know that when you present new information to an audience, they need to see that you're comfortable with it, because they can tune into your uncomfort. If you're uncomfortable, they can sense that. So definitely use something that's super easy in your mind to take. It might not even be a 60-minute activity. You might say, hey, I really like that binary code activity and I just want to start there. So just take that and just take 15 minutes and see how that goes. Trial and error from personal experience. I know that's, try it once and by the third time I'm like, it's an old hat. So the goal here is for you to try it out a little bit and have the least barrier to doing that by using the event scenarios. And then once you get really comfortable, then you can create your own sample scenario. And we have a worksheet in there to say, okay, well, if I'm going to engage them in this topic, I'll use this resource because I've tried out this resource already, so I know that'll work. And then, I'm going to explore, so I know that I've used this, so I can put this in my event. And then you can make your 60-minute event or 90-minute event. So it's.
Thank you. And I also know from the survey we did at the beginning of kind of who was in the room today, we have some audience members who are students and community members who might be like attending programming or just interested in these resources on their own. Can people just go online and play around with these resources even if they're not participating in an event or, not doing it through their library or science center?
Absolutely. So all of these resources are free. You can find them on our Universal Learning website. There are links that go out to, for example, the Exoplanet Travel Bureau poster. You'll find those links there. If you Google NASA's Universe of Learning, you'll also find anything that has that in the website address. So definitely, it's really fun. Those interactives for the students and the younger crowd in the audience here, those sliders are really, really fun. So you can explore all of them. We created a whole bunch of them last year, and I was heavily involved in that, and they're just really fun. And so you can take that, and you can have a group of your friends who are also interested in astronomy, and you can explore it. yourself. You don't need a Girls Steam Ahead with NASA event to do that. Same thing with the Astrophoto Challenge. If you tell your teacher, hey, I really want to do this. Can we do it as an after-school activity? And your teacher might say, hey, yeah, this is great. I don't know more. You can give them our little email address here, and we can put your teacher in the right direction to help support that. But anybody.
Wonderful, thank you. Very exciting. Just so many fun things to explore and play around with. We have a question here from Julie. Do you offer trainings for school counselors, or I guess any trainings for any sort of school staff or educators?
So we don't have any official professional development training sessions. We think of these webinars as a place to really start that introduction to the resources. A lot of our resources have informational videos that are embedded into that to help the facilitator get some of the background knowledge. For example, that whole NASA's Astrophoto Challenge, there's a video that just introduces that whole process, because that can be very overwhelming to individuals who have never done an image processing before, and thinking about what is this information and how do I think about it. So there are many places where those kinds of videos are embedded, so I would use that as a resource. If you don't know where to begin, reach out to us. You'll most likely be getting a response from me, and I can definitely direct you, here's a place where you can learn more. If you're hosting an event, then I definitely can support you through that in a more detailed fashion, because now you're formalizing it. But if it's just I don't really understand this resource, the Girls Steam Ahead email is here. We also have a NASA Universal Learning email, so any of those emails will get to somebody on the team, and we can respond and direct you in the right way.
Wonderful. Oh, go ahead, Quinn.
For content, for those of you who might be part of the Museum Informal Education Alliance, we have science briefings that help you learn more about the content, and you'll hear from the scientists talking about particular topics, and we have all of those recorded and on our Universal Learning website. So if you're thinking, I really want to host an exoplanet event, but I know nothing about exoplanets, you can read that recording and look at the PowerPoints and really get that background information to feel good enough to share it with your audience. All free, all recorded, easily to access. So another, in that sense, professional development. It's pitched for facilitators to get that background knowledge, for museum staff, the audiences, people working with the audiences who will.
Great, and I see some folks sharing some of those resources in the chat, including Carolyn. Thank you, Carolyn, for being so great in that chat over there. And as we get towards the end of the webinar here, I just wanted to say I saw someone in the chat say, oh, I'm not a science person, so I'm not sure how I would start with this. And I would just challenge you to think, if you're curious about the world around you and our universe, you're a science person, right? Science is about curiosity and exploring. So thank you all so much for being here with us today. Thank you to Quinn for sharing all of these fantastic resources and great information. And thank you to the Girls Steam Ahead with NASA team for offering up such great resources and also offering, your email addresses for support and getting more comfortable in using these. And as we close out, I just wanted to let everybody know we have some upcoming National Girls Collaborative Project webinars. On May 18th, we have a webinar celebrating Global Accessibility Awareness Day. We have a webinar on May 24th highlighting the If-Then collection called Representation Matters. Then coming in June, we have on June 16th, Act Locally with NGCP Local Collaboratives. And on June 22nd, Curious About Curiosity Camp, If-Then collection resources to support girls in STEM. So we hope that you'll join us for some of these upcoming webinars, and we hope you had a great time with us today. We appreciated you being here. Thank you so much, everyone.